Good day, folks. Welcome to Andrew's Life. I hope everyone's doing great today. Well, we're going to talk about Asperger's today and how it relates to me. And this is a topic I never discussed on this channel. It was something I've always wanted to keep, personal. But when I look at all the turmoil that's going on out here in society, when I look at all the people out here that are looking for answers, they're looking for solutions, they're looking for ideas of how they can live a better life. And by the way, I'm among those people. I'm not even going to sit here and lie. I'm hoping that my story, well, my brief story about Asperger's will help somebody out here. So, anyhow, for those of you that have been watching me for the last 3-4 months, give or take, you most likely watched my video that I made about my adoption, about how I was adopted at age 5. Well, I have Asperger's. Obviously, I've had Asperger's my entire life, and for those of you that don't know what Asperger's is a high spectrum of autism. Now, as I was growing up, nobody ever told me that I was autistic, and no one ever mentioned Asperger's at any given time. Now, my parents were old school, so I'm thinking either A, they didn't want to tell me I had autism because it was, back in their generation when they were coming up, autism, there wasn't a whole lot of knowledge about autism, and a little bit of knowledge that was out there about autism, which was very little. Basically, if you were autistic, people basically wrote you off as being retarded. So I'm gonna assume my parents never told me I had autism or Asperger's because A, they genuinely didn't know. B, it was something that they may have been ashamed to tell me. Or C, they didn't want to tell me I had autism, I had Asperger's, because they did not want me to use that as means of an excuse for me not doing what I'm supposed to be doing for myself in life. And the fourth reason why they probably didn't tell me is because it could have been for my own sake. They didn't want me to feel lesser than. They didn't want me to feel lesser than. So those are the four reasons why I'm assuming my parents never disclosed the fact that I have Asperger's. Well, fast forwarding a little bit, I was dating a woman in Indianapolis. In her line of work, she worked around people that were autistic. Many of them were heavily autistic. And she noticed certain traits about me. And she asked me, and one day she asked me straight up, Andrew, do you have autism? And I'm looking at her real strange, and I'm telling her no, because at this time, I didn't think I had autism. Well, she suggested that I go to the doctor and I get tested for autism. At first, I told her, no, I'm not getting tested. I don't have it. I've never been told. And obviously, by this time, she has already met my parents. And she explained to me that my parents, they're older. They're from an older generation, the generation before the baby boomer generation, because her parents were around that age group. So she said, well, she offered me, well, not offering me, but she told me, well, maybe they didn't want to tell you that you had autism. Or maybe they didn't know, kind of like the reasons I discussed at the beginning of the video. So fast forward a little bit more. I think about 6 or 7 months later, I finally decided to set up a doctor appointment with, I forgot who they call him. I'll just say my therapist at the time. and I decided to go in and get tested. I took a series of tests. So finally, so not only did I take a series of tests, but I also took it a step further. I decided to get in touch with my foster parents, which to this day I still keep in touch with her. She's 92 years old, but I decided to get in touch with her. And I asked if she had any paperwork about me when I was first uh, put in her care from the hospital. And she said, "Yeah, I got some paperwork." So I asked her, "Well, can you mail the paperwork?" And I gave her my address at the time. So she went on ahead. She mailed me the paperwork. Now, of course, before that time, we were on the phone for 3 hours. It's the longest time I've ever been on the phone with anybody before. I never even talked to my parents on the phone for that long, but with her, it's 3 hours on the phone. So she has given me a bunch of information, and I'm just sitting there like dumbfounded because it's information that I genuinely didn't know. Which I'm gonna keep that to myself. But anyways, she mailed me all the paperwork. I looked at all the paperwork. I took the paperwork to my therapist at the time. I call her a therapist because I don't know what the proper term is. I forgot. I'm tired. So I took it to my therapist, and she looked at all the papers. And then I had to see another therapist, and they also looked at all my papers. And it was determined that yes, I am autistic, and yes, it's Asperger's. Now, of course, I was born in '79, so at the time, I think no, I was born in '79, but I think around 1980, 1981, they did some basic. Uh, they ran a few basic tests with me, like they were testing my motor skills, like can I walk, can I talk, can I stand, can I feed myself, all that basic stuff. Well, making a long story short, I at that time I was unable to do any of it. Now, there were times that when I was a baby, I mean, my I couldn't go home to my biological mother because she had stuff going on. So I had to stay at the hospital. And from what I've been told, the hospital that I was at, they didn't have the proper staffing or the proper equipment to do what they needed to do to where I was able to develop at a normal rate. So when they gave me, when they tested all my motor skills, at this time, there wasn't no, the word autism wasn't really a term that they used a lot, if at all, in the medical field at that time. Asperger's was not even really a. I don't know if Asperger's was even in the vocabulary at that time. I don't think it was, or if it was, a lot of people just weren't aware of it. A lot of people in the medical field weren't aware of it. So basically, it stated on my paperwork, retarded. I hope I don't get flagged because I'm not talking about nobody other than myself. But that word was on my paperwork because back in those days, they, from what I've been told by my foster mother, they didn't recognize autism the way they recognize autism today. The way they have, the way you can get educated about autism today, back in the late '70s, early '80s, that type of education was not made available. And from what I understand, even a lot of the doctors at that time didn't really know what autism was. At that time, the concept at best was a fairly new concept. So they just slapped on my paperwork, retarded. So, anyways, make a long story short, I discovered that I have Asperger's, which, as I told you before, it's a high spectrum of autism. And if it wasn't for my ex girlfriend at this point, I would never found any of this out. So, if she's watching this video, which she does watch some of my videos because she's busy taking care of her family. So, if she's watching this video, I can't uh, I can't express enough how appreciative I am of her encouraging me to get that checked out. And of course, to this day, we're still friends. We still talk every so often. Of course, I'm here in Alabama. She's up in Indiana. So we see each other once in a blue moon. So that's how I found out that I had autism. And honestly, I think I'm going to start talking more about autism one way or another. But yeah, this is a topic that, like I told you, I never really wanted to discuss on this channel. I wanted to keep it a secret. But I figure with all different types of people from all different types of from all different walks of life that are watching my channel, I figure, at least I'm hoping, that there's somebody that will come across this video and they'll watch it and it might help them cope with whatever spectrum of autism they're dealing with. Because there's still a few people out here today, surprisingly, that they're autistic and don't realize that they're autistic. You know, people are making fun of them, people are cracking jokes about them. You got people that are adults that are autistic and maybe they get a job and they get treated poorly because of who they are. And I'm hoping this video helps out those individuals. So for those of you that, you think you're autistic, go ahead, take the test, talk to the therapist and find out. And I was going to say something. I forgot what I was going to say. My mind went completely blank. So yeah, that's how I found out that I was autistic. Yeah, I completely forgot what I was going to say, people. I apologize. You know what? I think I'm going to stop the video right here and I'll just do another video later because we're over 13 minutes in and I don't want to make the video too long. So stay blessed. Catch you guys on the next one. I thought about what I wanted to say. For those of you that have children that are you think they're autistic, or maybe they might have certain behavioral patterns that may not be normal, so to speak. Don't be ashamed or afraid to take your child to a therapist and have them checked out for autism. I know there's some of you parents out here that you got a whole bunch of pride and you don't want to take your child to a therapist to have them checked out for autism because you're afraid they might have autism, and then once you find out they have autism, if they do, many of you are afraid of what so and so is going to think about your kid because they've been labeled autistic. But from someone who himself is autistic, I beg you parents out here, don't be afraid to have your child checked for autism if necessary. And if your child is autistic, please, triple please, for the sake of your child, whatever treatment programs are available, participate in those programs. And again, don't be afraid. Anyone that criticizes you, or anyone that makes fun of you, or anyone that looks down on your kid, or they look down on you or whatever because your kid's autistic, fuck them. They're not your friend. I don't care if the I don't care if the people that are doing that to you or your family, cut them off. That's what I wanted to say. All right, stay blessed. Catch you all in the next one.